Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 503, Big Dragon Energy. Hello, Big Chillians. Welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined as always with Eddie. Eddie, how's it going?
Yeah, things are going pretty well. Slowly recovering from the cold. Probably wasn't the ideal weekend. The torrential downpour at Longchamp probably didn't help the recovery, but getting there.
What a surprise, it rained at the Arc.
It was the worst weather I've ever encountered on the day there. Like, it's normal in the build-up or even on the day to have some rain, but there were serious moments during that where it was just, I mean, we've had that one year at Ascot, right, where the weather was just terrible. It was reminiscent of that, but with even less cover. So it was not pleasant.
Yeah, the only thing more unpleasant than going to the races when it's raining in a downpour is when it's raining in a downpour and you can't catch a winner.
Yeah, well, check
So
all of those
that
boxes. Yeah, no, that didn't help the mood of a lot of people in the camp, that's for sure.
Overall, though, I mean, at least the Arc was a good race. And, you know, we discussed beforehand that it was a weak field. And besides maybe Alpinista, who could be a star, there weren't many stars there. And it turned out that Alpinista maybe is the star and won the race. So I think that from a perspective will make that Arc look better than it was because the right horse won. Had Alpinista not won, I think you look back on this Arc and say, like, that was an off year.
Yeah. I mean, there were a few storylines, right, that could have made it. And that was one of them. I think there were about 4 that could have sort of made the race look, obviously, if you'd had a defending champion win and he came close from a bad draw, I mean, that was a pretty good run. And same if Luxembourg had won, you could have at least started to say, well, that's an exciting horse for the future. O'Brien's just sort of the excuse for Luxembourg's poor run is that it tweaked a muscle early on in the race. So that's the sort of excuse for why it sort of semi-flopped. And then I guess, yeah, if title holder had won, then you get the Japanese story, which is quite nice. And for a while, I mean, when title holder turned for home and was cruising, I thought, okay, it's got a chance here. And then
But so is Alpinista.
That was
an impressive ride. That was an impressive ride. And he held for a long time before he asked her to go.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's very nice to see for Sir Mark Prescott, obviously, and for Luke Morris as well. And it's just strange for Luke Morris because he's a jockey that you associate with, you know, all-weather racing and kind of evening cards in England, not exactly someone you associate with grade ones and big horse, you know, big rides and sort of standout horses. And I mean, he followed it up yesterday by having a double at Wolverhampton, which is kind of his bread and butter. So
wouldn't even take the day off at Wolverhampton.
No, won the Arc on Sunday and was back he did evening racing at Wolverhampton on Saturday, won the Arc on Sunday, back at Wolverhampton on Monday. So you have That's to crazy. Admire the dedication there to just kind of doing what he does.
Well, the only other horse thing I think we should mention while we're talking about horse racing is another jockey who you might say isn't as impressive right now, and that's Christophe Soumillon, who for those who didn't see, gave a nice little people's elbow during a race to a fellow jockey and knocked him off pretty badly. I've never seen anything like that. And especially considering whenever we've had jockeys on the podcast or, you know, we've talked to other people about jockeys, they seem for the most part very friendly with each other. And they kind of are, you know, they kind of realize that, yes, they can influence the race, but a lot of it is just the horse that's underneath them, you know, and they can only do so much. So I think there's kind of that respect for each other. But that was different level.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because there's been some mixed reviews some jockeys have come out in defense of Sumio and said that it's a genuine racing maneuver, including Ruby Walsh, who came out and said, look, he just got it wrong. Like he was trying to do something that is acceptable and he didn't execute it properly. And so it's all gone wrong. And then obviously you have other people who say it's completely unacceptable. I think the issue I have the most with it is the context, the time during the race when it happened. If that had happened in the final couple of furlongs and you really need racing room and you've got to get out because otherwise the race is over, I think you can maybe see where he's coming from. But coming around the bend in a small field where you would have known sooner or later he was going to get his chance to clean run, I think that's where you have to take more issue with it. And yeah, it was uncomfortable a little bit at Longchamp on the weekend because obviously he's got this 60-day ban, but the ban doesn't come in with immediate effect because it gives him chance to appeal and stuff, and that's just standard policy. Longchamp came out and said they didn't really want him racing that weekend. You had the Aga Khan who came out and said probably don't want him racing this weekend either, who's the owner who has him on retainer. Today the Aga
Not anymore.
Yeah. Although today the Aga Khan has come out and said he's no longer on retainer, but he may still ride for them sometimes. So it seems like a kind of non-firing. It's very
we
strange.
Just really need a win.
Yeah. It's like we need to do the right thing from a PR perspective and distance ourselves. But when the timing is right, we'll bring him back on. But yeah, it's weird the way Ruby Walsh, I mean, he tried to defend it on ITV Racing, I think it was, comparing it with like long distance runners when they elbow each other, or like how Erling Haaland, I think that was his other comparison, would try and create space for himself by using his elbows. And he was it was rightfully pointed out to him that the difference is, that Erling Haaland's not traveling at 35 miles an hour on top of another animal.
Yeah.
And so his life is not at risk, or the defender's life is not at risk when he tries to sort of shoulder him off the ball. So it's a little bit different.
And even in the running, it's kind of what you were saying, right? Like if you're vying for position at the end and you're trying to, get out and make your final move, it's slightly understandable. Like I and especially in running too, like if you're boxed in and you need to get out, you do need to push your way through, right? And I mean, you see jockeys push their way through often. What you don't see often happen is in a 14 lap race, halfway through the second lap, some guy out of nowhere just elbows the guy next to him and knocks him out of the race. That's not what you're seeing. So that's kind of the difference. It was just at a very early time in the race where it wasn't necessary. He was just next to him. He wasn't really pushing him in. He wasn't holding him in at the time. It wasn't like Simeon was trying to get out of that quickly. So that was it just doesn't look good from the perspective of it. It just makes you look like you're just pulling a cheap shot on someone.
Yeah. And I think he also, he's fortunate in two respects. One, that Ross Orion wasn't too badly hurt, which is, the story is really different if that's a serious injury. And the other thing is, I think he's slightly fortunate that it was Ross Orion that he did it to, and not say Ryan Moore. Like how much bigger is the controversy if one of the jockeys who was going to ride one of the big favorites in the Arc is missing the weekend because of what Soumillon did on Friday, as it transpires, and maybe he wouldn't have done it to them. That's the other thing. Like, would there have been more respect and more caution had that been a better known jockey? And not to kind of downplay Ross Orion, but he's not, a big name in international racing. And maybe he would have been treated differently. And also, I think Soumillon, the backlash would have been even greater. Like if that's Dettori, who he's just put out for a couple of months, I think the outrage is even bigger than it was.
Yeah, agreed.
And I guess Erling Haaland came up over the course of that discussion, and
Eddie, I'm going to ask you again.
Does he
break? Is he going to break the Premier League goal record? I'm going to give you one last shot, Eddie. This is it. This is the last time I ask you before he does it, and you can't take any credit.
I mean, I've said no, so I've got to stick to no, right? I can't change.
I'll let you amend it.
No, I'm still going to bank on the fact that as rotation comes in, and history would tell us he picks up a small injury at some point, and I think. But I mean, look, he's already broken one record. He's the fastest to 3 hat tricks.
Did you
So,
see the difference between him and Ronaldo? It's fucking insane.
well, I don't think it's not even Ronaldo. I mean, because Ronaldo's a little bit of an unfair comparison, right? Because people think of Ronaldo now as this great goal scorer, but when he first came into play, he was a genuine winger when he first started playing for United and not taking penalties or anything. So, but when you compare him to the list of the other players, so I mean, for starters, he's the first player in Premier League history to score a hat trick in 3 consecutive matches. So he has that record in the bag after 8 Premier League appearances,
It's
and then
insane.
he reached 3 Premier League hat tricks in 8 appearances. Second fastest to 3 Premier League hat tricks is Michael Owen, which that took him 48 matches. Then you have Ruud van Nistelrooy 59,
Crazy.
Fernando Torres 64, Andy Cole 65, and Luis Suarez 71. So I mean, the question is how many hat tricks? If you think Michael Owen was the fastest to 3 hat tricks in 48 matches, in the next 40 matches, how many hat tricks does Haaland score?
I'm going to go at least 4 more. 1 every 10.
Yeah, that seems fair. Yeah. So, no, I mean, look, I'll stand by what I think. He is, at some moment in time, he is going to break the record. And if he sticks with City for the remainder of his career, then he's got a very good chance of breaking the all-time, which is current goal scorers record, which is currently held by Alan Shearer. Harry Kane will probably break that record before he retires. So, but yeah, I think he's got a genuine chance of breaking pretty much every goal scoring record. The issue becomes, can he stay fit, which history would tell us he picks up small muscle injuries every season. And
keep saying that's your fallback right now.
It's true, though.
It's tough because he's so young too. I mean, as he's getting older, he's going to be getting stronger, and just his body's going to be maturing. So maybe he's not going to pick up the knocks.
Maybe not, but he's it's just one of those. There's that element, and then the second thing is, how long will he stay at City for? It's very
already
clear.
Reports.
Already, yeah. You've got Alf-Inge Haaland's dad, who's already talking about how this is just the next step in his career progression, and he was obviously strongly linked with a move to Spain. I think that's obviously a career goal of his, is to play for one of the big clubs in Spain at some point. So, it feels like he's going to have a little bit more of a sort of mercenary approach to his footballing career. And enjoy his time at City, and then assess where he is 3 or 4 seasons from now, and see if he can make more money or build a bigger legacy at Real Madrid or Barcelona. So that would be the other thing before people start.
Doesn't have to pay taxes too.
Yeah. But before people start, everyone's penciling him in now for breaking every record, and it's like, well, part of the thing that makes, for example, the all-time goal scorer record in the Premier League, part of what makes that achievement so difficult is you need to play 10 to 15 seasons scoring goals consistently every year. That's not easy.
Yeah. So he scored that hat trick in the Manchester Derby, and also Phil Foden scored a hat trick in that same match. Yeah. Eddie, is that the first time that's happened in Premier League history?
That 2 players have scored hat tricks?
Yes.
I want to say no, but I can't think of another instance. But I would say no.
The answer is no. This is now the 3rd time it's happened. So it happened with Arsenal in 2002, 2003 season, and then happened to Leicester in 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
So it happened recently.
And you have to feel they can feel sorry for Foden after a good performance, but
a little bit.
he could have been the star of the show, and then, which, not that he needs because he's such a highly thought of player, but that could have been sort of him stamping his sort of presence on this season, because he's maybe he's not set the world on fire so far this season, and now it's just completely overshadowed by Haaland's performance.
Yeah, I mean, it is tough to. I think, especially in America, because all Americans will see is the goals. But when you watch a lot of those matches, I mean, a lot of that is he's scoring because of Foden and because of De Bruyne, who are just controlling the ball and setting him up. And then he's just making this really nice runs, and they're just so good at getting him the ball in the right spot. That it's not, I'm not going to say it's an easy goal, because the lead up to it is so impressive, like like the way they're in sync. But I mean, a lot of that is coming from them, and it gets even more overshadowed when he just keeps scoring. So it is a little unfortunate. But when you watch the match, I mean, I think Foden's having a great season. It's not just because he's on my fantasy league, but
no, he's a great player. But no, look, you're right, and it's always that interesting one, right? So Haaland is scoring all of his goals. I think he has one goal slightly outside of the penalty area. All of his other goals have been scored inside the box, and so you're talking about it's interesting how the interpretation or assessment of that can change. Some people would call him like kind of a different player who is less highly thought of. It's more of a goal poacher or a goal hanger or whatever it is, but there's much more positives associated with the way that he's playing. And yeah, I mean, most of the goals he's scoring are easy finishes, this finish themselves. But what you have to admire about him is the movement, this kind of sixth sense that he has in terms of getting into that right spot. And you can go online and watch the analysis of how much people love to do this with Messi, with like how much he looks around. And it's like part of Messi's strength, right? Like he's constantly sort of analyzing where everyone else is and then kind of moving into that space. So when he moves into the space, it looks easy, but the ability to assess where that space will be is the skill. And it's the same with Haaland. They do a lot of freeze frames of like when a cross is coming into the box. And whereas every other player in the box will be looking at the ball, he is initially looking at space. And so he's seeing where everyone else is, and he's just gambling on, I'm going to go to the one spot nowhere else is. So if the ball arrives here, I will score. Versus I'm going to go for the ball, or I'm going to go to the front post or the back post just automatically because that's what I do. And so, at the moment, certainly all of those gambles in terms of hoping the ball falls to the right spot, they're paying off.
Yeah. And then maybe I've watched a decent amount of City's matches, but not every single one. But it also seems to me, just like you're saying, his instincts are so good that he doesn't seem to be like offside as much on a lot of those crosses. Whereas a lot of other players you'll see, they break too early and they're just not timing it right. Whereas he just seems to have a knack and just that sixth sense for having the perfect timing, knowing when to go, where to be, kind of things like that, you see him score more than get a goal called for offside, where, other players you'll see, they'll get 2 or 3 of those a game almost,
Yeah, no. I mean, his timing of his runs and everything, it's, you can't, it's one of the art of just scoring goals. Sometimes it gets underplayed and overlooked to a certain degree. And people just think, well, yeah, anyone could score that tap in, but it's a real skill to know, to find yourself in that space at the right time. It's, people have that knack. And a lot of the great goal scorers over the history of, football, and certainly in the Premier League, I think pretty much you'd argue almost every great goal scorer has had that ability. Like that's just something, and I think it's to a degree like you're almost born with it, just to know, oh, I'll just get into that space now. And the difference of 1 yard either side is all it is, the difference between the ball kind of flying slightly by you or you're tapping it in for a goal. And it is difficult to teach, but it makes a huge difference. I guess the other two big storylines from the Premier League. I guess if Sam were on, we could dedicate a little bit more time to Arsenal's fairly impressive victory in the North London derby over Spurs in the lunchtime
I
kickoff.
miss that guy. I miss Sam so much.
But a good performance. I don't think it was a red card, I guess, is the only kind of talking point from the match. I think Arsenal probably still would have won, but it certainly changed the dynamic of the game itself. But I'm still not overly convinced by Arsenal. Like I don't think they have a chance of winning the Premier League, put it that way. But I think I'd be surprised if they don't finish in the top 4, given the start that they've now had. But their fixtures are going to get significantly harder, and that's going to be the real test.
Okay, you say they don't have a chance to win. Do they have a chance to be second?
Yes, but I think that's mostly because everyone else is faltering. And that's like
But isn't that what makes them good? Is that they're not faltering when in the matches they should be winning, they're winning.
Yeah,
which a lot of these other teams aren't doing.
You are correct. It's just I'm kind of picking them. I'm sort of ruling everyone else out, and then I'm left with them. And I don't love that as a way of selecting the team that's going to finish second. If you see what I mean, like it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm because the other teams could go on a run of form, and then I'll think that they're significantly better than Arsenal. If you see, I mean, look, still early in the season. This weekend will be a big test. They're going to play Liverpool on Sunday. If they win that match, then
Huge.
proven themselves to a certain degree. If they don't, then the question marks still very much remain.
Yeah, huge match.
And then, speaking of Liverpool, slipped up once again to a team that you would have expected them to have beaten. Drew 3-3 with Brighton, came back from 2-0 down, went 3-2 up, and then conceded a late equalizer. A conversation I think we've had about 4 times so far this season.
It's so frustrating.
But I think we can rule them out of the title race now. It's the first week of October, and I am confident that there is no way they win the league.
Yeah, they're just losing too many points that they can't lose.
No, and to teams that they shouldn't be dropping points to. And yeah, it's going to require they're almost in the stage now where they nearly need to win every match to have a chance. Like they're not far off being in that situation. So, and again, another point we've touched on, they've just not looked good. So it's not as if, things are going against them or they're making, the isolated silly mistake. And so that's why they're like Brighton genuinely deserved that point at the weekend. And a lot of the teams that have, beaten or drawn with Liverpool so far this season have deserved it. Liverpool have looked second best defensively. I don't know what's happened to them. I don't know what's happened to Van Dijk. He's gone from being the best central defender in the world to looking decidedly average, which big concerns for Liverpool, big concerns for the Netherlands heading into the World Cup. Alexander-Arnold, he's getting so much attention and criticism at the moment, but he's not helping himself because he seems to make a defensive error every time he plays at the moment. So, yeah, it's just everything that made them good in recent seasons seems to be going wrong.
Yeah, and I guess as a way to segue into the NFL, I think it was the Sunday night broadcast with Mike Tirico. I think he does Sunday night. I believe it's him and Herb Street.
Yeah.
Is the new Sunday night. I have to say I was slightly impressed. They started talking about the Manchester Derby, and he used the word derby. He said 4-0. He said he used like 2 other English phrases that I was very surprised because usually it's like, if I forget, give another announcer, they're like, oh, the Premier League is back tomorrow. And it's like really bad. But it was as if he must actually be a fan. He must be a legitimate fan. The way he was talking about it.
Usually get with Americans, right? It's Premier League.
Yeah.
Already sounds weird to an English ear. But yeah, no, look, there's no doubt that the sort of, there's a growing level of interest. And yeah, I do think sometimes when you hear in the NFL, when they are plugging upcoming games, either it's the Champions League games and they're plugging them or a big Premier League match coming up, you can tell that they've just been given a couple of sentences to read, but they have no idea. They may as well be reading Klingon, like they've got no idea what words are coming out of their mouth. And then one of them is just going to make a stupid joke after it, like, I cannot wait to see Dortmund play Besiktas, like that's, and then they move on. But no, there's definitely more people involved. But as we transition, I actually want to start with one topic that came up. So obviously the Niners got a big win last night in Monday Night Football. And going into that, you had asked a question. And I don't know, I think you got an answer last night. And here it is.
Where's Debo been?
And I think...
Wow. Yeah, to cut that out, I would have just repeated it myself.
Yeah, for listeners who do not know, that is an actual audio clip. That is not Frank quoting himself.
Where's Debo been? That's right now, as I was saying it. And that was a hell of a touchdown. And even, you know what, I had the Rams, and I was happy to see that just because he just blew through Jalen Ramsey and made him look like a little girl, baby.
Right.
Not good tackler.
The interesting thing, right, is, and it was the most Jimmy Garoppolo touchdown ever because it was kind of a bad throw. It could have been an
Yep.
interception. Instead, it's a good catch, and then 70 yards after the catch or whatever it was, with a few missed tackles and everything, and all you see on the stat sheet is Jimmy Garoppolo, long touchdown to Deebo Samuel. But the reality of it is, well, that could have gone very, very differently.
Yeah.
But I mean, the big talking point, we don't have to dedicate too much time to that game. The Niners defense looks seriously good. I don't think the Rams are great, and they're missing a lot of players. And it is, as I said, going into the game itself, it is Cooper Kupp or nothing for them, really. But the
I mean, that
overall,
was on display yesterday. Cooper Kupp
yeah,
or nothing.
and a little bit of Higbee. They had Higbee going a decent amount, but their offensive line is just so depleted. So again, you never know. But the Niners were then missing players from their defensive line as well, so maybe balanced out slightly. But their defense looks really good.
Yeah, their defense looked really good. And what was impressive was there were points where you thought, oh, the Rams are getting in a groove. Here we go. Like, if you had said to me their defense looks really good at the end of the first half, I think I could have argued, well, the Rams had 2 or 3 really nice drives and just stalled. But then when you put that whole game together, the Niners were able to shut them down on a good amount of drives. And then the ones where they did not let them, but the times where the Rams started to get into a rhythm, the Niners were able to really hold on and not let up any big plays and not obviously let up any touchdowns. So that is always the indication of a really good defense, is when, you can bend but not break and give up only 9 points to a team like that. So that was an impressive display there.
Yeah, and to add to that, right?
7 sacks too, by the way.
7
Destroyed
sacks.
Stafford.
Yeah. I think only one play of more than 20 yards, which was in like the second to last drive, right at the end when already they were kind of not prevent mode, but a little bit sort of standing off a little bit more on things. And then also, I mean, one dropped interception that you could have added to that, which would have taken away 3 more points from one of the field goals. So yeah, a very complete performance. And then offensively, Deebo was more involved. Kittle probably still not back to full health, but was there doing a couple Kittle things at times, and running game looked good. And it just seems like Shanahan knows how to beat the Rams. I mean, that much is clear.
Yeah, actually, that was one of the things. I don't know if you have that audio clip, Eddie, but of you saying that you were betting on the Niners because he owns the Rams and he owns McVay, and that was definitely, we had a few on our pick selections of trends and things to look for that definitely came into fruition. I mean, that is definitely one of them. At this point, I think you have to go in the regular season at least betting the Niners to beat the Rams until they could prove otherwise, because they literally cannot right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's 7 in a row, right? So
yeah,
that's the other thing I really enjoy about it. And again, not because I'm just a Niners fan, but those teams genuinely dislike each other. And I really like, particularly in divisional rivalries, when there is bad blood there. Like, you don't want to see anything unpleasant, obviously, and like anything, dangerous or violent, but just the consistent chipping at each other and like little things after plays are done with, and you can tell the players really enjoy the sacks or the tackles or the touchdowns and everything. It does make it more interesting. The NFC West, I think, for the most part, has delivered that pretty well, because before that you had the Niners and the Seahawks really not liking each other. The Cardinals are kind of the team that gets left out of all these rivalries, but it's good to see. I think it makes you look forward to the games themselves more, even if you're a neutral. And then other big takeaways: Bills beat the Ravens, came back from a big deficit.
Great game.
Yeah.
A great game unless you're a Ravens fan. If you're a Ravens fan, you have to be really disappointed with that second half.
Yeah, they threw it away not only from the position they were in, even the position they were in at the end of the game. I mean, that interception at the very end, which was like the one thing you couldn't do.
Don't throw an interception in the end zone.
Yeah, it was like, because worst case scenario, you would have said to worst case scenario, we got them pinned on their own one. Great. and it's like, oh no, now they're in the 20. Like it's just a radical change. It was the one thing he could not do, and I think it's one of those ones where I wasn't. I didn't come away from it being super impressed by the Bills. Like it was a good win, but I didn't I wasn't blown away by their performance. But at the same time, I didn't really feel like the Ravens lost anything in defeat in terms of how I thought about them. Like I still think when they get to the playoffs, they're capable of beating anyone. But I mean, I don't think they're the best team in the NFL, but they'll be a difficult team to beat in a playoff scenario.
Yeah, I think what impressed me about the Bills, I mean, you look statistically, okay, it's not going to be the most impressive game, but what is impressive is, they're down 20-10 at half and did not look like the better team. We're definitely the inferior team in that first half, and then came out that second half, just, complete resilience and just dominated that second half. Outscored them 13-0 and won that game. And that is impressive, is that, they can have that, I guess, that short memory that is pretty important in the NFL. You see it a lot of times with the Chiefs too. The Chiefs can go down sometimes, 20 points and still, forget it, turn on a switch, and boom, next thing you know, they're up 7. So that is huge in the NFL, where things can pile on pretty quickly and they can snowball. So that was, I think, an impressive thing to see, is that, it didn't seem to phase them. And Josh Allen played well in that second half and kind of took that game over for his team. And, the more you watch him play, I think the more impressed he is that he's a really good leader and you can count on him when you need it.
Yeah, and I think the other real positive take from them is the Bills, for the most part, one of two things happens to them. They either destroy teams or they lose close games. So in a sense, winning a close game against a good team is getting something of a, kind of proving a little bit of a point there. And yeah, you're right. It's like the Chiefs can play with ultimate confidence because they've been there, done that, and they know almost no deficit is insurmountable. For the Bills, that will fill them with confidence in that they know, okay, even if at halftime or deep into the third quarter, we're behind by a couple of scores, we know we're capable of slowing another team down and scoring quickly. So yeah, it's a good win for them. And I guess speaking of the Chiefs, looked like they were back to the Chiefs of old, just winning high scoring games against good teams. Never really looked in doubt. A good performance, and you have Patrick Mahomes coming out with his playground plays.
God, it is so fun to watch. Like, and I get it. It's just some people don't like it and some people aren't impressed by it. But as a fan of football, it's just so fun to watch, like, someone do things that is so anti what the NFL is. Like the NFL being so structured in this play and run that play, and we're going to catch them, in the wrong coverage, and this guy's going to be open because that guy's covering this guy. And it's like Mahomes is, just, give me the ball, let me run around a little bit, and then I'm just going to like do a little spin move and half throw, half toss it to this guy in the corner. It's just, it's fun to watch, man. I don't care what anyone says. It is so cool. You can always just sit and watch a Chiefs game and be entertained. I love it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's and I can get it. Like I think sometimes the broken plays, the kind of schoolyard stuff, people maybe put too much sort of skill into those than compared to, I think Mahomes does some things that are way harder than the kind of running around for a little bit and then a little flick. Like there's still a ton of skill in that. Like, don't get me wrong, you cannot stick the average person in an NFL backfield and think that they're going to buy time for, 7 to 15 seconds and dodge a couple tacklers and then just gently float a ball over a couple of 6'5" players, but still I do think sometimes people lose their minds over those plays when in reality, like a much more skillful play was, happened 3 or 4 plays before. It just doesn't necessarily look as spectacular, but no, it's fun to watch.
If someone could just get him to cut that Oakley deal he has so he can stop wearing those stupid sunglasses, though. Got to get rid of those sunglasses, man. They're killing me. It's tough to be a Mahomes supporter when he comes off the plane in the worst looking sunglasses on the planet. He could be the only person in America wearing those sunglasses. That's why Oakley is giving them to him.
And then I guess talking of high-scoring games, you had the Jared Goff. We've spoken about record breakers. Jared Goff has now started at quarterback in three of the 20 highest scoring games in NFL history. I guess the interesting question to ask out of that, Jared Goff has actually looked pretty decent this season, and obviously the Rams would not undo that move because they won a Super Bowl, and I don't think they win that Super Bowl last year with Jared Goff. But this season, who would you rather have? Matthew Stafford as you've seen him so far, or Jared Goff as you've seen him so far?
I'd stick with Stafford for now. I think Stafford is a little injured right now. So when he gets back to 100%, I think he's the better quarterback compared to Jared Goff. They're similar. It's not as if either of them is Josh Allen or Mahomes. They're not the ultimate game changer. They're above a game manager, but below an elite level, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't see a huge difference between them. I think ultimately, like that Rams playoff run will put Stafford on a different level, but they kind of rode their luck along the way, and it could have easily gone very differently. And, had they lost one of those games before the Super Bowl that they could have lost, then everyone would be, I think you'd have a lot more discussion going on now about do they regret that trade, which would have been kind of interesting, but they dodged that bullet because you win the Super Bowl and then that justifies everything.
I think the better question from that game to ask is for quarterbacks is who would you rather have, Geno Smith or Russell Wilson?
Yeah, it's not looking great for Russell Wilson at the moment.
No, Eddie, what's not looking great is that Subway commercial. So,
I mean,
if anyone who hasn't seen that Subway commercial, stop the podcast, go to YouTube and type in Russell Wilson Subway commercial. It is cringeworthy. It is awful.
The thing I have to wonder with Russell Wilson is, like, at one moment in time, it's the question you have to ask yourself with a lot of famous people. At one
Is he in on it?
Is he in on the joke? Because, I mean, that commercial, with the fact that he's speaking to no one, it's like a one-way conversation where he's interacting with them, though. And it's impossible to think that would have gone through, multiple people in his team and him. And obviously the Subway people too. I don't think it's a great look for Subway. Okay, it goes viral because but you know what I mean? Like it's not the best thing from a Subway perspective. Obviously not the worst thing from a Subway perspective because they've had way worse. But I wonder if there's an element there where he's just thinking like, I'm embracing the kind of dorky athlete look. And
is he the biggest fork in the NFL, Eddie? I don't think it's even close.
Yeah, he probably is. Yeah.
Did you see the other? I think was it last week or the week before when he went on the 50-yard line and he like put his hands up and just like went 360 around like in the 50-yard. Like, what is he doing?
Yeah, no, I think that's the bigger issue I have is so much of it is like performative. It's like even when he, the clip went viral of him trying to tell people on the sideline to yell, run or pass.
Oh God, yeah,
and
the run or pass stuff.
And everyone was like, "Well, NFL teams don't do this." Like,
yeah,
but that's kind of what you do when you're playing like
major fork.
Yeah, like at that point, you just if you've made it, if you're a DB in the NFL and you're needing your sideline to tell you run or pass to try and help you make a play, you probably shouldn't be in the NFL. And I can't remember ever seeing the Seahawks do that. The Legion of Boom getting helped by Russell Wilson shouting "run" loudly, but it's just a question there of like how much of it is him just kind of trying to embrace that image and be kind of performative with it, or is it just this is his true personality coming out?
Yeah, I think it's the latter.
Quite possibly. I mean, look, he wasn't liked by a lot of people in Seattle, right? His teammates, he's never been embraced by his teammates. It was that he was really good and they were winning. But he was never, if you do think about it, the Legion of Boom had their identity, they had their close ties, and there was never a moment where you felt like, well, they also like Russell Wilson. It was like, no, we're now competing. Who's winning this game? The defense or Wilson? We're trying to prove him wrong here, even though we're on the same team.
Yeah. Yeah. The Legion of Boom, not the Legion of Boob.
But yeah, no, not a great look. And then I guess the only other real talking point from me was the Packers surviving a scare against the Patriots. Yeah, no, a tough one for you.
But not to my benefit.
No, but the Packers continue to look just like sort of okay. They're not quite clicking offensively, but I still just think over the course of the season they'll just gradually get that little bit better. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I just think the version that we see of them now versus week 18 is going to be very different.
Yeah. You say they're not going to win the Super Bowl, but the issue is that the NFC right now, I don't know who's the favorite for the NFC. So yes, if you put all the teams together and rank them and had them do a playoff, then I don't think they're in the top 5. But they could still be the best team in the NFC and have an easy road to the Super Bowl.
I mean, so
I don't, you have the Bucks, right, who didn't look that great on Sunday night. You have either the Niners or the Rams coming out of that division who look good, but don't look phenomenal. I mean, they both have question marks, right? Is Garoppolo going to be able to do it? Is Stafford going to get healthy? Is that offense going to be able to put up points when they need to? So the NFC just doesn't look. I mean, you have the Eagles are the only undefeated team in the NFL coming out of the NFC. Are the Eagles? Are the Eagles really that good?
The Eagles are favorites to win the NFC right now. They're 3-1. You have the Packers second.
I mean, should they be?
I mean, they've looked pretty good, right? And they are undefeated. And you're right. It's a little bit like me saying with the Arsenal choice to finish second. It's kind of starting eliminating everyone else first and then kind of working backwards, right? And I don't love that, but no, I don't think the Eagles. I would not be betting on the Eagles at 3-1 to win the NFC, just because.
No, me neither.
This is the first season of them being kind of good. This iteration of them being good. And I'd want to see more from them before I felt confident enough to think of them as favorites. Like, I'd be much more tempted. You've got the Rams and the Niners at 8-1. I'd be way more tempted.
What are the Giants?
50-1.
Oh, the 3-1 Giants looking sweet at 50-1 right now.
And hey, if you love Geno Smith, the Seahawks are 200-1. They are the rank outsiders to win the NFC.
And I guess just touching on the Eagles while we're there, they played the Jaguars, who now I just have the Eddie curse Trevor Lawrence. Whatever Eddie says about Trevor Lawrence that week, he does the opposite, because that was one of the worst games I've seen a quarterback play. And I watched Daniel Jones in his rookie season, and I don't think he ever fumbled 4 times in a game. Trevor Lawrence turned the ball over 5 times, 4 fumbles. That was awful.
Well, yeah, no,
they could have won that game. Had he just held on to the ball half the time, they probably win that game.
I mean, they were up by 14 points, right? So they had the lead. And it's kind of surprising given the position that they were in. And from the Eagles' perspective, they proved something. They hadn't scored a point, I think, in the second half up until that game. So they've got something. And if you're the Jags, that would have been a real statement win for them. They're still, yes, they had a couple good performances, but how much do you read into that win against the Chargers with the injury issues that they have? And then this sort of pushes the Jags down from being maybe a really legitimate, I'm not even going to say contender this year, but at least like a playoff threat, to maybe now, okay, we're a while away on that one.
Yeah. And I'm going to say it now. I've, the past few seasons, I've always said that the Packers, to me, they'll get these great records in the regular season, but then I don't think they're really the team that's going to make it all the way to the Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl, and that their record kind of flatters them. Looking at the Eagles' schedule, I right now, if I could, would lay the Eagles as hard as possible, because their schedule right now, they're 4-0. Okay. They play, you tell me win or loss. Cardinals,
Win.
Cowboys,
Win.
Steelers,
Win.
Texans,
Win.
Commanders.
Win.
They're now 9-0.
Yeah.
They're now going in 9-0.
Yeah.
Haven't played a single team over 500, I don't think.
No.
Colts.
I'll say loss. I'll say the Colts
Okay.
have figured.
Packers.
Loss.
Okay. So now they're 9-2. Titans.
I'll say loss.
Okay. 9-3. Giants.
Win.
Bears.
Win.
11-3. Cowboys.
Win.
12-3. Saints.
Win.
12-4. Or sorry, 12-3. Giants.
Win.
13-3. Philadelphia Eagles at the end of the regular season. Are you buying them to win a Super
Don't
Bowl?
they have one more game?
Having played
Isn't it a 17-game season?
16.
Oh, 16 and 17 weeks, yeah. I think they'll... I think, yeah, if you look at that schedule, I would expect them to have, no more than 5 losses, right? So there's a very good chance they're the number 1 seed on that basis.
Sorry, 17. Yeah. They're 14-3.
14-3.
Sorry, I counted wrong.
Yeah, I think there's a very good chance based on that schedule they're the number 1 seed in the NFC. But then...
I wish I could put the bet in now.
Wait, on what? Them to be the number 1 seed?
No, for them to be like to be the number 1 seed and then lose their first game in the playoffs. I'm gonna tweet out to William Hill to get that specific bet.
Yeah, I'm sure you.
Because
I'm sure.
I mean, you literally look at that schedule. The only game they have that's tough, maybe you could say, is versus the Packers at home. They're not playing in Lambeau, so they even get that benefit, and it's a night game, I believe. And maybe the Cowboys towards the end of the season, if the Cowboys get Dak back and start to turn it on a little bit.
Yeah, the Cowboys.
And maybe the Saints are a 500 team.
So yeah, if Dak is back and the Cowboys, Cowboys don't even look bad right now, right? With Cooper Rush, so like the Cowboys
also 3-1.
Yeah,
but
the Cowboys could start to prove us maybe a little bit wrong, and maybe they're better than we currently think that they are. And yeah, the Saints, their defense is pretty good, and it's just at quarterback they've got issues in terms of both health and just performance, and maybe by the end of the season they've figured that out. So yeah, some of those games could become the same with the Titans, right? The Titans is like, if Derrick Henry is going to run all over teams like he did at the weekend, then they're very hard to beat. But they're so reliant on, will Derrick Henry be healthy? If you're telling me going into that week that Derrick Henry is looking great, then that's maybe a tough game for them. But it's hard to project this far into the future.
I'm just going to say it now. Eagles fans, I don't want to hear how unbelievable it is that they lose in the first round of the playoffs after having this great record because they didn't play a single team in the regular season.
But we see teams like this. The Packers, you've kind of drawn parallels to the Packers. I think we see this. The Packers do this every year, right? They have a great regular season record and then they lose to the Niners. Like this is just kind of what we've seen play out in recent history. It's like, just pencil it in. The Packers are going to get kind of demolished by the Niners in the first round or the second round of the playoffs, and then everyone will be questioning, like, how did Aaron Rodgers win the MVP? Then they only lost like 3 games in the regular season, and then they lost by 25 points. And yeah, it does feel like the Eagles could be on course for a similar sort of thing. And I guess on a little Tua update to continue our discussion that we've obviously, I guess, worth mentioning that he's already been ruled out for this week's game, as he is still in the concussion protocol. So he will not be playing against the Jets this weekend. And also that the doctor was fired. So that was the fall guy. Everyone else is okay, but the doctor's out the window.
Yeah. They just have not handled it well from that Sunday game. It has been just handled terribly. We spoke off podcast about after the game on Thursday, Tua then met with the team and took the flight home with the team, and the head coach tweeted out that, or maybe didn't tweet it out, but maybe he said at the press conference that Tua seemed fine, seemed okay, and was watching movies the whole time. The one thing they tell you not to do when you have a concussion is to stare at a screen for 6 hours and get on a plane. And they did both of them and then just openly admit that they do it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just been really poorly handled. And it's just not, as we've said on previous episodes, it's just not a great look for anyone involved. But, hopefully they're sensible enough to have him sit out for a few weeks. And as we touched on in the last episode, their schedule is kind enough where they can probably do that without having made any major impact. And also it just allows all of this I don't want to be watching a Dolphins game over the next couple of weeks, just keeping a close eye as to whether or not I'm going to see Tua be writhing unconscious on the ground again. So that hopefully we avoid that.
Yeah, and you know what? I was actually slightly disappointed with maybe not Tua, but maybe his PR team, because he released that statement, once he had recovered, kind of saying that he's good, he feels good, and he can't wait to get back on the field. I get you want to appease the fans and show them that you're a team player and this and that, but that would have been a great opportunity to be like, I just want to make sure I can get healthy and be good and go from there. I don't think any fan would question and be like, oh, what a baby, what a wimp. He's not concerned about coming back. He's worried about his health. It was a good opportunity to really put it out there that concussions are a very serious thing. And when you get multiple concussions in multiple weeks and you are literally unconscious with your hands frozen at your face, that the more important thing there is to make sure that you're healthy and are going to live a full life, then get back on the field to play the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2 weeks. And they missed that opportunity really badly.
Yeah, and also too, I mean, I just think people would have accepted it because he would have, he could have spun it as like, look, what we're building here is like a long-term project, and we don't need to be short-sighted in terms of getting me back on the field for a week, sort of 5, 6, 7 game, because what we're trying to do here is be great over the course of a number of seasons. So, there's so many positive ways to spin it that it would have been hard to disagree with, and instead just being like, I want to be out there as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
No one else wants you to be. So
as soon as I can count to 10 again, I'm out there.
Even if it's on the 4th try, hopefully they'll still let me get out there.
Last little tidbit of the NFL, Eddie, the little betting tidbit. The Eagles are the only undefeated team, but there's only one undefeated team against the spread. I want to take a guess?
Oof. The Falcons?
Wow. Great guess. Yeah. The Falcons, 4-0 against the spread. Yes.
Yeah, they've been a little bit surprising so far this season, but that being said,
he had a 1-point loss to the Saints, 4-point loss to the Rams, and then a win against Seattle, and now a win against Cleveland.
Yeah, I think it might all unravel this weekend, right? But
Tampa, San Fran, Cincy. Next 3 games. That ain't looking good.
Yeah. But,
talk about schedules.
But it's been an exciting start to the season for them. Now, speaking of topics we've mentioned previously on the podcast and major controversies, I don't know if you saw, but
Mighty Ducks season 2?
No.
Are we doing it? Are we doing it?
No, we're not. I'm not putting myself through that again. I'm not doing it. So a Russian court.
Black Panther trailer.
No. A Russian.
So no Mighty Ducks and no Marvel. What are you doing to me?
No. A Russian court on Monday set October 25th as the date for Britain.
Don't give me the Brittany Griner stuff.
Brittany Griner.
You're gonna skip the Black Panther 2 trailer and you're gonna go to this.
Well, yeah, I think it is more important, right? This is someone being held. But yeah, October 25th is the date for her appeal. Brittany Griner's appeal against her 9-year prison sentence. So be interesting to see what happens there.
I guess the moral of this story is don't travel internationally with drugs.
No, I mean, I still think it's... No, look, she definitely made some mistakes, but yeah, it's still facing a pretty harsh sentence. But yeah, it must be a scary situation to be in if you're her.
Yeah, I would not want to be in a Russian prison for any number of years,
No,
let alone 9.
not even a day.
Not even a day.
Not even visiting as like on a guest pass. I would still not want to be there. But
not even touring it.
No. And then speaking of other controversies, we're obviously, we're not too far away from the World Cup. We're getting towards a month away from kickoff, and obviously there's huge storylines about this being held in Qatar, and people as to whether or not people will even watch it. Denmark, I don't know if you saw, but in there, the shirt, the kit that they'll be wearing, they've made their badge and their sponsor's badge as difficult to see as possible. So they're meeting FIFA's guidelines, but basically they are wearing blank shirts for this because they do not want to sort of endorse the World Cup itself. So it's a
what? Don't know if I fully understand this.
Anyone who doesn't get it, go ahead. Well, we'll put it out on our social media. You can follow the Big Chill Podcast on Twitter or on Instagram, and you can see the image of their shirts. But basically, they have the World Cup shirts they will be wearing, their logo, their badge, the Denmark badge, and the logo of the manufacturer of the kit are extremely difficult to see. They are a very similar color.
It's like a blurry swoosh.
No, they're not blurry. They're not blurry. It's just they're very similar color to the shirt itself. And so basically what it will look like from a distance is that Denmark are either just wearing a plain red shirt or a plain white shirt. And that is their sort of protest to the World Cup being held where it is. In addition to that, I mean, one of the other protests that will be taking place is that I think 8 European countries have signed up to, including England, has signed up that the captain will be wearing an armband with the rainbow flag, on it, to sort of protest the Qataris' approach to LGBTQ rights. So that will be what they'll be doing. But it's we're going to have a future guest on, hopefully, to talk about how prepared it appears the World Cup is, as there's still some doubts about whether or not they are actually in a position to host a World Cup right now. But interesting to see.
They got plenty of time.
Yeah, only a month. You can build a stadium in that time. And then news came out today. I mean, official bids for the 2030 World Cup are being announced. And those bids include Spain and Portugal will be announcing a joint bid, with Ukraine also as the third, with Ukraine forecast to host one match in the group stages, but just as a way of incorporating Ukraine into that bid, which I think is a smart move from Spain and Portugal, because it's a great way to make their bid appeal.
Oh, 100%.
Like, it's way more attractive. They are then up against it's likely to be so Uruguay, Argentina, Chile, and Paraguay have announced that they would be making a 4-country bid to host. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Greece are expected to submit a joint bid. And there is also the possibility that Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain could also submit a joint bid. I'd have to say, with having just being held in Qatar, it'd be a bit of a difficult pill to swallow to see it be right back in the Middle East 8 years later. But
I mean, it doesn't really matter, because after 2026, all other World Cup host venues will be nothing compared to that one. So
yeah, it's possible. But no, some interesting news there. Be interesting to see who wins that particular bid. So, any other sports news from the weekend?
No, not that I can think of. Should we do our weekly TV dive?
We can go for it, yeah.
Are you caught up on House of the Dragon?
Fully caught up on everything, yeah.
Wow, okay. How are we feeling about the time jump in House of Dragon, then leading to the emergence of 7 new child characters who scream on screen.
I think this show is terrible.
See, now I think that's unfair. In no way can you call this show terrible from a production value, from the actor standpoint.
Okay, hold on. Let's talk production value. When the little kid flew that dragon and was around that dragon.
Oh, you mean Harry Potter flew that broomstick?
That was,
because that's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of Harry Potter, either the first time he rides a broomstick or when him and Ron get in that car that they can't control. They're just like, wah!
That was some of the worst CGI I've seen in the last 10 years. Like from a major production.
Now,
that looked
this
awful.
is where there are multiple people that I've listened to who think that was amazingly done.
No,
that whole
are they
scene.
blind?
I'm not joking. I'm not joking.
Was this Ray Charles's podcast? Who are you listening to?
No, I mean, there's been several podcasts and reviews I've read that thought that entire scene was amazing.
Also,
go ahead.
I will not have my mind swayed about how terrible the graphics look fundamentally for such a high production show. And in particular, which we'll talk about, I guess, after, when you contrast how good everything looks in The Lord of the Rings to that scene, It looks like a high school project versus a Hollywood movie. Like there's no way when you're watching them again, like within a couple of days each other, that you don't go, oh no, this is one of these is operating in a different stratosphere. But more on that scene in particular, that kid goes from having the arm and upper body strength to hold on to a saddle as a dragon flies through the air to then being beaten up by a couple of younger kids. I mean, what happened to him? Guy's an absolute beast when he's on the back of a dragon, but as soon as you put him on the ground, he's just a weakling.
Well, I don't know though, because if you rewound in the beginning of that episode, he is like this timid little kid. He then rides this dragon, and then he comes into that cave with some BDE, with some big dragon energy. He's just, he just got on that dragon, and he's rocking that BDE, and he's pushing these girls out of the way. You don't give a fuck anymore after that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I will say at least I did not enjoy that episode much. The funeral scene that just was 15 minutes of people just glancing at each other with nothing being said. I didn't need that. That was like actually being at a funeral. I know we were supposed to be reading into, the dynamics between everyone because he's looking but not talking. She's looking, not talking. It could have taken, it's my consistent gripe with this show, something that could have taken 90 seconds and you could have got everything you needed from it. Instead takes 9 minutes.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me at all. Like I enjoy slow or paced shows because I think you can get some character development out of that. So I'm okay with that. So getting back to that dragon scene, the initial part when he faces the dragon, I thought that was the CGI was fine on that. That was cool. I mean, it's got to be difficult to make a monster dragon and have it like almost breathe fire at a person. That looked good. And then like having him climb on the back with the rope, that was cool. That was fine. But why they insist on having that riding scene when they know it looks bad? No one saw that. No one saw that and thought, wow, you know what, guys? Our CGI has improved. This looks pretty good.
See, I disagree with you on almost all of that. I mean, I don't disagree with you on the writing looking bad, but even in the scene where he's interacting with the dragon, maybe the dragon itself doesn't look too bad, but it cuts back to him, and in the background, it's just very clear he's behind it, like in front of a green screen. And I hate...
It's not a green screen.
Well, they're using the...
It's that... Yeah, they're using the... I forget what they call it here.
I would bet my life they did not use that for that scene. I would bet my life.
You don't think so?
No. Because it looked so obvious, just how he was. If you compare that with, it's the thing they use right in Star Wars, where it's like in
Mandalorian.
Yeah, that you don't get that image where the actor themselves, there's kind of a clear outline between them and the background. In that, I felt like you could just it just looked bad. It just and again, it's a little unfortunate because I am directly comparing it to The Lord of the Rings, which looks amazing. Like everything they do looks amazing. And then you watch Game of Thrones, and it's just like, this isn't so good.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings is operating, I think, double the budget, so that might have something a little bit to do with it. But still, then don't put that scene in,
with
right?
double the budget. With double the budget, they are delivering 100 times the results. Even if I'm the producer or whatever on Game of Thrones, and I'm seeing the difference, I'd be like, how much more are they spending on their CGI team? Twice as much? Okay, fire everybody. Because
just twice.
Yeah, because
see, I'm not as down on it as you. I think I think the dragons for the most part look pretty good. I think the issue is they still can't knack getting them riding a dragon. So then just don't do it.
Yeah.
Like, it looks, but every time you've seen a scene of just like a dragon flying, it's fine. It's
in
cool.
The distance.
Every time you see a person close up on a dragon, it's the dopiest looking thing. It's never looked good. And then just that whole scene, it was very, for Game of Thrones, which is such a serious adult show, that was right out of like a Harry Potter scene.
Yeah.
That scene. It was brutal. And then the only other part that really, really annoyed me is then when they all get together to figure out what happened, and the first 20 seconds is just a bunch of kids screaming like, he did this, or he did that. And it was just all of them and they let it go for so long. I was like, can you guys just fucking shut up already?
And again, so I think you have more, you give them more breaks because you've enjoyed the books and you enjoyed the TV show the first time around. I'm kind of judging it from, I'm not a Game of Thrones person, and I just really don't think it's particularly good.
Yeah. I think what's really happening, and it's weird that not so many people are mentioning this. Maybe they are, but I guess maybe the podcasts I listen to are all pro Thrones. But the original Game of Thrones was based on books that were written with everything in it. Dialogue, story progression, all of this. This show is based literally off a fictional history book. And when you read the book,
not this fictional history book nonsense again.
Yeah, but when you read the book, it's literally like reading a history book. So it would be as if you picked up, let's say 500 years down the road, you picked up a high school book and wanted to be like, oh, let's make this into a movie. And it's just World War II. This day, this happens. Fast forward 6 months. Now this is a big battle. Fast forward 3 months. Now, and that's how the book is written. You can't make a show just highlighting big events for one day and then say, like, oh, how come no one's invested in this character? We gave him 3 minutes of screen time and then we killed him. No one cared.
I don't even think I think there's just a lack of big events too. But
these are the big events.
No, I get that
in the history. Like this big event, they get Vagar. Like Team Green gets Vagar. That's a huge event, and like that's Team all that Green. Was. This whole, that's what they're called. They call them the Greens.
Fucking Laser Quest.
Didn't you see her? She said it. They call them the Greens because it's Hightower and they wear green. But anyway, like that was the whole. That's why the episode was an episode. Was because the main thing was to show that happens and then they get married at the end. So you're literally just putting in like historical context and making an episode out of it, and that's not the way. That's not what made Game of Thrones fun originally. It was like the dialogue and like the quips and the way they talk to each other. That's what made it fun.
Yeah, and my only other big takeaway, the guy who plays who's the gay prince? I'm not good with any of their names.
Laenor.
He looks like Dele Alli. And I can't get it out.
Especially with the shaved head.
And
That's pretty good.
I just thought,
he does look like Dele Alli.
I just thought, this is where Dele Alli's gone. This is why his footballing career's gone downhill. He's committed himself to acting.
It's not going much better.
I mean, he really looks like Dele Alli.
Oh, that's pretty good. Oh, that is good.
But yeah, and that also, I guess the other issue is that episode then had like the scene of faking his death they did all of that in 45 seconds, and that felt like that bit could have been cut down on the funeral bit, and let's spend a little bit more time on them plotting this. I guess it leaves us in doubt as to whether or not it was intentional that they were faking his death. It's implied, I guess, that it was, but it's just, you could have, that would have been way more interesting than watching people awkwardly stare at each other at a funeral for 15 minutes.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes it even more pathetic not pathetic, it's a little harsh, but what the writers and the directors are doing, because that is the part that doesn't happen in the book. So it's like, oh, let's change it from the book a little bit, but do it really poorly. So like it's almost embarrassing that the things that they're changing, they're doing really badly. Like that was that 20 seconds and everyone, no one really gets what happened at first. No. And you kind of have to think about it a little bit. Like, are they in it? Oh, you're supposed to think that? No, I think it was just done poorly.
Yes.
That you didn't pick up on the fact that Daemon Targaryen kills the guy that they eventually throw into the fire. Like, not many people picked up on that, but that's what that guy was.
Yes,
when he sneaks up on one of the guards, that's the guy that's in the fire. So technically, they're definitely in on it.
Yeah. The meaningless.
You have to really think about it. Like, it shouldn't be that hard to think about whether they're in on it.
No. Yeah, the meaningless killing of a random guy that just happened.
Poor servant just happened to be there.
No, you're right.
That poor guy.
No, you're right. Like, there's that bit that just doesn't. They could have shown, they could have plotted, and yes, I guess they would say like, oh, we tricked you because we made it seem as if this guy's lover had turned against him for money,
but it's a cheap trick.
And as it turns out, it's like, no, they've just accepted to go off and have the life that they want to have together somewhere else. But it's a little bit dumb, and they could have just spent more time on it. It would have been more interesting.
Yeah, and I guess let's contrast that with Lord of the Rings, which I am enjoying more right now than Game of Thrones.
Oh, it's not close.
For sure.
It's not close. I'm like genuinely disappointed that we're getting towards the end of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, only 8 episodes. That sucks.
Whereas Game of Thrones, if you told me it got canceled tomorrow, I wouldn't miss a beat.
Yeah, and see, now I'll also contrast this by saying most people who are big Lord of the Rings fans did not like this last episode. This was their least favorite episode, and I thought it was overall a really good episode.
So
the war episode, we're talking about the war episode for whoever's not.
Yeah, if you're not caught up.
The battle.
They didn't like it. What? Because it was inconsistent with the canon.
A little bit of that, and a little bit of like the battle takes away from what makes Lord of the Rings great, which is the other stuff and not the battles. But then they forget that the Battle of Helm's Deep is like the greatest filmed battle sequence in all of movie history.
I feel like a lot of The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings sort of has major battle scenes, even within the books, like as pivotal moments. Yeah. I do think the only issue I always find, and look, it's just, there's not much you can do, but the only issue I always find with Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or whatever it is like every battle follows a very similar like plot development, which is it's going okay.
Winning.
It's going okay. Uh-oh, they're screwed.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, here comes the saviors. It's either eagles or people on horses or whoever it is, or it's
White
or
Gandalf.
It's Gandalf or whatever. Here, swoop in, battle over, battle won. There we go. Like, that's the only issue. It's a little bit formulaic, but I mean, I guess what are you going to do? That's just sort of how you have to go. And then it was frustrating that it took them so long to look at the sword, broken sword.
That is my biggest knock so far on this entire show, is you get someone to chase down someone through the entire forest because they have said special weapon, and then you capture them and no one even checks the weapon. No.
And
especially Galadriel, who would definitely be interested and be like,
what is this?
Why did I chase this guy down? What was this so important? I might know because I've been on Earth for 700 years. Yes. I might have insight that someone else doesn't.
Yes.
Nah, it's okay. I'll just keep it wrapped up.
Also, when it then turned out to just be like a like a hatchet, like an axe, like a little small axe. It doesn't even have the similar shape. Like even if it was wrapped up, it would have been completely different. But
The hand
yeah,
feel,
but
especially from the elf, right? Who have special
yes,
senses, and he'd held it
yeah,
before, so he knows what it's supposed to feel like.
and yeah, and again, they didn't need to have it go that long without having the same result. Like they could have figured it out pretty quickly and still had the guy already at the fort putting it in. Like
Yeah.
they could have done that without them looking like idiots for 30 minutes.
My other slight pet peeve about this show: why are they obsessed with Galadriel being obsessed with riding horses? Why is that like a thing? It's slightly awkward. It's getting to the point where it's slightly uncomfortable.
I think my bigger issue is too the elves are so overpowered, right? Like when you see them fight, it's just they're so unbelievably good that it just also has to follow that plot of like no, we have to like make them intentionally weak for a second so that they have a risk of being killed. But then every other moment, it's like no, they're all seeing like can dodge anything all over the place, moving super fast, catching arrows, doing whatever it is, like swinging on the underside of a horse to avoid something. But then the next second,
That was badass.
yeah, no, it's very cool. But then it's like part of you questions like, wait, why did they need anyone else's help to defeat all these orcs in the first place? Like wouldn't an army of elves just beat everyone? Like, what's the issue here?
Yeah, they don't want to though. They're tired of winning these fucking wars,
and they're worried about their tree.
Yeah. No, it's a fun show. I enjoy it. It does have that. You're right. It's Lord of the Rings, right? It's always going to have that. Eventually, the good guys are going to win, kind of thing. And as long as you know that going in, I don't think it takes away from it at all. Like I know that's going to happen, right? I mean, that's what Lord of the Rings is the unsung hero is going to prevail,
I guess they semi lose this one, right, over time, because like Mordor's still there.
Yeah, but you already know what's going to happen at the very end.
Yeah, I know, but you know what I mean. Like they still like this isn't like because it's the beginning of the story. It's not a conclusive victory for them in the end, anyway. So
no.
I mean, the big question mark, right, is who is the internet is.
Well, there's two.
Who's the guy? Who's the king of the Southlands?
Oh, yeah.
Because,
okay. And then who is the stranger?
Yes, but there's some speculation that the king of the Southlands is
100%. He's 100% Sauron.
Yeah, you think so?
100%. Yeah. I am full in on Sauron camp.
Okay. Because he doesn't exist in the books. So this is the thing that's causing that character. It does not exist. So that's what's causing the speculation. And yes, in that episode where he was very much hinting at it, like, oh, but it felt like when I was fighting with you, it felt different. Like
we were bound.
Yes.
He uses the word bound.
Yeah.
And you know what the ring does? It binds them all. That was like I swear to God, these are like every little subtle indication.
Yeah. And then of that. The other guy, I've got the other wizard or whoever it is who's descended from the stars, got no idea who he is.
Well, that'll be an interesting one because a lot of people obviously think Gandalf. But Gandalf technically wasn't around during this time. So if it's Gandalf, people are going to be super pissed off because it is very off canon. And they are doing a lot of things off canon because the second age is, I think, 2,000 years long or something like that. And they're condensing it literally into like 50 years. So obviously things aren't going to be on track, but that would be like a major deviation. So while many people think it's Gandalf, I don't think they're going to do that.
The things and again, I'm not going too deep into the rabbit holes. Most of the stuff that I've read about it has dismissed the idea that it's Gandalf.
People also think that might be Sauron as well.
That's what I felt like at first, because then it kind of made sense that the people were looking for him and there's this kind of evil element to him. That's where I was going originally, until then obviously this plot with the king of the Southlands they started to hint at that more. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But that's way more interesting to me than the House of the Dragon.
Yeah, and I think that they've done a good job too with both of those shows. You know the ending. You already know exactly what's going to happen at the end. But this show, Lord of the Rings, is doing a better job of having little things in there that are still slight mysteries. And like this, who is Sauron, who's the stranger, things like that. Whereas the Game of Thrones one, it's really not. It's like, oh, here comes next milestone in story. Here comes next big thing in story. And nothing is really like, there's not much mystery about it right now.
No. Yeah, and I guess the issue you'd say is, I know that there's obviously hardcore Tolkien and Lord of the Rings Hobbit fans
Who hate it.
who hate it.
I think most devoted Tolkien people hate it.
But then at the same time, like, I think
because they're racist.
the percentage of Game of Thrones fans who are hardcore is like a lot higher, because it's just a more recent thing, and you had the TV shows and the books are recent and stuff. So I feel like they have to be a little bit more careful. Also, the thing too is, right, Amazon didn't buy the rights to all of it.
That's where it's crazy.
So they've only got the rights to this little element of the story. So they have to be careful in terms of like parts they touch on of the storyline that actually isn't mentioned directly in these books. So they're sort of having to sort of tiptoe their way around parts of it where they like, oh, people are being critical of them. Like, why aren't you going into more detail about this backstory? It's like, well, they can't because they don't have the rights to it.
They can't. Yeah. That is the craziest part. So if anyone really wants to do a little like rabbit hole, you can go into like what Amazon has the rights for but doesn't. And the ways they're getting around it. So when you really dive into it, like they can't mention a character's name, but they can like, they've already done it in one or two instances where they've mentioned the nickname in a different language that translates to the nickname that's in the book that they can't say. It's crazy the way they're trying to get around it. So yeah, it's interesting, and it's kind of unfortunate that they just don't have all the rights. Yeah. It kind of is annoying at the end of the day.
And then my slight gripe with both of the shows is just, I get why they have to switch to the languages at times, but like when and why they do it, at least in Lord of the Rings, it tends to make a little bit more sense. Like the elves amongst themselves are much more likely to be speaking Elvish or whatever it is. In House of the Dragon, it's just two of them speaking English, and then all of a sudden, like, yab, 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 and then switching back to English. And I just wonder, oh, were those words that the actor could say more easily? Like, why have you chosen which bit? Apart from unnecessarily showing us that this fictional language exists, like, why are you switching at times?
Oh, come on, Eddie. People love that.
I'm sure other people,
like when they start, like at the end when they start talking Valyrian, when Rhaenyra and Daemon start talking it, it's because like they're Targaryens, Eddie, and they want to be Targaryens and live the Targaryen life.
So that would be fine to me if they were always.
I know, but they started in English
and then finish in English. And if there was some consistency there, either if it was when they're all alone.
Well, at least Daemon's finishing now. Oh.
If it was like when they're all alone, or if it was the opposite. If there was someone else around them and they wanted to have a private conversation, so they switched this language, all of that would make sense to me. But the idea that you just start speaking in English and then midway through the conversation go, I'm going to say this in the other language. And then the other person responds. And then, let's switch back to English now. Yeah, that bit frustrates me.
But yeah, closing in on both of those shows about another month or so, and both will be done. And then we'll have to get into Mighty Ducks 2.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, I guess I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. See ya.
See ya.